Hi class, welcome to week 11 of your hospitality facilities management class. I hope you all had a good spring break and you are ready to be back at school. This week we will be discussing diversity, turnover, recruiting and selecting, training, and motivating employees. A diverse workplace is no longer defined as a workplace that needs to be politically correct. The hotel and hospitality industry is a global business, and so it makes sense that we would see guests from all sorts of different cultural backgrounds with a wide range of expectations, customs, religious beliefs, languages, education, sexual orientations, etc. This is no different than the employees that we hire to serve our guests. Having a diverse team can mean many different things, but most importantly, it's imperative that businesses today ensure they are practicing inclusivity when it comes to their workforce. Some positives to hiring a diverse team include greater access to guest target markets with different cultural backgrounds than your own, an increase in employee productivity. Employees are not all the same, and no one is left to feel as an outsider. Employees that reflect the guests they serve, and a feeling of comfort and welcomeness for employees that maintains retention. Some negatives to not hiring a diverse team include bad public relations for the hotel, the owner, and the brand, decreased employee morale, decreased employee productivity, high turnover rates, a revolving door of hiring and training, which is costly for the hotel, and an impact to the guests, as they are unlikely to receive the best service due to poor employee morale and performance. Think about your workplace. Would you consider it diverse? Ignore the data in your book. Those numbers are 18 years old. As of 2022, 24.5% of the hotel, motel, and resort employees are Hispanic or Latino in the United States. Hispanic or Latino people make up for 28.4% of all supervisory positions in the housekeeping or janitorial services field. 51% of Hispanic or Latino people in the workforce work as maids or housekeeping cleaners in some capacity. This data is all very interesting, but what does it mean for you as a housekeeping manager? You cannot require that your staff speak English fluently unless it's a requirement for the job and a business justification has been stated. There are laws that protect non-English speaking employees. You do, however, need to figure out how you will communicate with your non-English speaking staff if you yourself do not speak the language. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 states that employees cannot be discriminated on based on their race, religion, color, sex, and national origin. Refusing to employ someone because they do not speak English is a violation of a person's national origin. Hotels are responsible for ensuring they have practices in place that do not discriminate based on one's origin and do not violate Title VII. An employer cannot have an English-only policy. A business necessity for an English-only policy requirement must meet one of the following. If communication with guests, coworkers, or managers whose only language is English and English is necessary to complete the job function. For example, if the guests visiting your hotel primarily speak English, the front desk agent you hire would also need to speak English fluently. This would be a justified business reason as to why English is a requirement of the job. Communication and tasks in emergency situations that need to be communicated in English. Specific work assignments when speaking English is a requirement of the job duty and necessary to complete the job duty efficiently. And enabling a supervisor who only speaks English to monitor the performance of an employee whose job duties require communication. A language barrier may be inevitable within our industry. There are ways to overcome language barriers. A manager can implement any number of programs. Some of these include a color coding program that differentiates tools and job duties, a number system for housekeeping, maintenance, and the front desk. Common problems will be assigned a number and will be translated to the necessary language. The employee can then report the number corresponding with the issue to the front desk along with the room number. The front desk can then relay the issue to the appropriate department for resolution. Training videos available in the necessary language are always helpful. The manager can also host weekly short morning meetings where a new translation that pertains to job duties is taught to employees, and the same translation can be taught to the manager in the language that the employees speak. It's important to engage with the employees and allow them to select translation topics that matter to them most when performing their job duties. The hotel could also partner with a language education school or classes and cover the costs for employees who wish to take a class to further their knowledge of English or Spanish. Pay employees their regular wages when taking a class to encourage participation and growth. When I worked as a housekeeping manager, only a few of my employees spoke English. I had to rely on the bilingual employees to help me translate. To better assist my team, I created index cards that had a supply name in Spanish and English. This way, they could show me the card, and then I would know what it was they were asking for. I also took self-taught classes and found some helpful books that are specific to learning Spanish as it relates to hotel housekeeping. I still do not know Spanish fluently, but over time I was able to pick up bits and pieces by identifying keywords for what was being requested so I could better assist. We define turnover as each time a position is vacated, a new employee must be hired and trained. Why does the hotel industry or the hospitality industry have such a high turnover rate? Well, simply said, there are not enough workers available to meet demand. Let's talk about the reasons for turnover and the negative impacts of turnover on our industry. Some reasons for turnover include seasonal work, young employees moving to other jobs or maybe starting their careers, competitors that are hiring employees at better pay, better working conditions with better benefits, and it's generational. Baby boomers and Generation X were the most employed generations in the industry. They've now grown up and either become guests or now have better, more stable jobs. Some negative impacts of turnover include it's costly. It's extremely costly to the business. The cost to replace an employee can equal 100% of the annual pay for that employee just to hire and train them. When employees leave, it has a negative impact on those employees that remain. Customer service and cleanliness standards decrease, resulting in dissatisfied guests. Guests are impacted when employee turnover is high. They are less likely to stay again or remain loyal to the hotel or brand. High turnover means that the business or organization is more likely to operate inefficiently and become unstable. It's time consuming. It can take a full year for a new employee to become acclimated to their new position and become productive. Not all turnover is bad. Some level of turnover is inevitable, such as retirement. However, when one employee leaves, that opens up a position for possible promotion for other employees. If business is doing well, it may be necessary to add employees. Regardless of the turnover rate, it's important that the housekeeping manager always have a recruitment plan in place as well as new hire training ready to go. There are a lot of costs associated to turnover, which is why it can be as high as the employee's salary. Those costs include tangible costs. Those are incurred directly when replacing employees. That cost can range from uniforms to advertisements. Intangible costs. These are significant costs that relate to the loss of productivity. They do not relate to out-of-pocket expenses. Separation costs. These are incurred directly. They can include severance pay, the cost of conducting an exit interview, maintaining files on that employee, payroll and benefit changes, and of course, unemployment taxes or paying unemployment. Replacement costs are associated with recruiting new employees. So think back to advertising, pre-employment screening, conducting interviews, testing somebody, or staff meetings held to discuss replacing those people. And of course, training costs. Orientation costs for new employees to include the cost to train them and overall initial hiring costs, which includes those tangible costs. The recruiting process can be very lengthy, and there are a lot of ways that recruiting can be conducted. Read the pre-recruitment process in your book. If you do not have the book, you can find the reading in Blackboard under week 11. A successful recruiting process will result in qualified candidates for open positions. The next step is for the housekeeping manager to find the best fit out of the candidates who applied. There are 4 principles to consider when selecting the best candidate. The first one is explicitness. Develop criteria that is required for the position you are hiring for. The more specific and explicit the criteria, the easier it will be to determine who is the best fit. Objectivity. Be free from bias. The hiring process must be quantifiable. Create a scoring system based on the criteria to rate each candidate. Thoroughness. Do not skip steps within the hiring process. All candidates should be thoroughly screened, interviewed, tested, and meet with the primary decision maker. Consistency. Continuity of people, purpose, and procedures throughout the selection process will produce much better results. Typically, the housekeeping manager or the executive housekeeping manager will not train new hires. Instead, they'll delegate training to supervisors or talented employees. The housekeeping manager is ultimately responsible for the overall training program and its development. The purpose of effective training is to help employees develop skills to do their jobs well. Creating a framework for training will help the managers and trainers train new hires consistently, efficiently, and to brand standards. The four-step training method is one method to create a training program. The steps include preparation, demonstration, practice, and follow-up. This week, you'll read the 4 steps to on-the-job training article from LinkedIn that best describes this training method. An important part of maintaining employee morale and positive productivity is motivation, and this will be your responsibility as a manager. We define motivation as the art of stimulating a person's interest in a particular job, project, or subject to the extent that the individual is challenged to be continually attentive, observant, concerned, and committed. Motivation is the end result of meeting and satisfying those human needs associated with feeling a sense of worth, value, and belonging to an organization or a department. So, how can a manager motivate their employees? There are 4 different steps: training, cross training, recognition, and communication. One way to motivate employees to get them involved in an effective training program. Training sends a strong message to employees. It tells them that management cares enough to provide the necessary instruction and direction to ensure their success within the organization. Training reduces the frustration employees feel when they do not have a clear-cut idea of what they're doing, or the proper and necessary tools to do their job well. An effective training program will educate employees about the job and how to perform their job with the tools and supplies necessary. When a company invests in employee training, it will result in employees who are more productive, efficient, and easier to manage. Cross training is when an employee is taught job functions that are outside their normal job duties. There are many advantages to cross training for both the employee and the manager. For the employee, cross training allows them to develop new skills and experience other duties which may further their interests and career. For the manager, it increases flexibility in scheduling and coverage. Employees that are cross trained in other areas are more valuable to the company, and it also enhances their ability to move upward within the company. Recognition for a job well done goes a long way with employees. One way to recognize employees in the housekeeping department is to share positive guest comments with them as they pertain to specific employees. Another way is to call out employees that perform their job well. This can be done by the manager or by other employees who catch an employee going over and beyond for another coworker or guest. There are a ton of creative ways management can recognize and reward employees for their performance. Communication is key to any motivational program. Keeping employees informed about what is going on in their department and within the hotel makes employees feel a sense of belonging and value. There are many ways that communication can be handled. Messages can be relayed during morning meetings or through a department newsletter. And as always, I hope you all have a great week, and I look forward to reading your assignments.